Hello, in this set of video notes we're going to create a small basic library site which is populated by a MySQL database. As you can see here, I've created a small template with a few images, an index.php and style.css. Okay, here it is. Here you can see there's just a header, I have a div tag for the nav, div for the content, and div for the footer. In the nav there you can see I just have home, add a member, add a book, display members, display books. So in this case we're going to need two tables on our database, one for adding a member, and we'll have another table for adding books. Later on we'll join these two tables and link them. And again, the display members and the display books will just be a bit of a code pulling data from the database. So in this exercise we should see how to add to a database and how to display from a database. Okay, so once we have that done, what we're going to do now is use FTP to upload this to your online site. So we'll use our online site to have a look at this. So we'll come back here, just library. Okay, and you should see that. So it'll be yourname.x1.ie, and you should see your template now online. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is add a database. There is a database added by default, but let's add tables to it. As I said there, we need a members table and a books table. So I'm going to log into the back end of my site. Okay, you can do this with your username and password. And when you get there, just come onto the first page, phpMyAdmin. Okay, phpMyAdmin is a direct interface to MySQL, GUI for MySQL. You'll see there by default there's a database already created, and the database is your username. So the database is created by default just by creating the account. So what I need to do now is add the two tables. I'll start off by just adding the members table first, and we'll come back later and add the books table. So I'll call this table members. Okay, now how many fields do I want in it? Again, I can have as many fields as I like, but in this case I'm just going to put in 6. Okay, and click go. And it brings up the 6 fields of data, and in each field I will put in the data type. Okay, so the field name will go here, the data type, and any other things that I want with it, like primary key, auto increment or something like that. So I'm going to start off and call the first field members ID. Okay, it'll be an integer. I'm going to leave a lot of the defaults here. The null, not null, timestamp, and that relation, that can be default as well. For attributes, can you pull that down and select unsigned? Okay, that would just give us a positive integer when it's auto incremented. We leave all these unchecked. This will be the primary key, or should I say they're all unchecked, leaving them not null. Again, we'll talk about that later. So this field will be the primary key, and I'll check this box to auto increment, AI auto increment, and I should be happy with there. So the member's ID will be an integer which auto increments each time a new member is added to the table. Again, what I need now is first name, so I'll type in first name, and the type of data here will be a varchar, and the characters will be 64. Again, for the next field I'll have this last name, again it'll be a varchar, and it'll be 64 again. Yeah, so the rest of the tables are very handy. Again, I want the address in, this will be a varchar, and again I'll just make it a little bit bigger at 128. And lastly I'll have second last phone, again another varchar, and this will be 32. You don't need that many for a phone. The reason I'm not making this integer is people may decide to use hyphens when putting in their phone number, like 087-123 or whatever. Again, last gender, again another varchar, and that's 32. The reason I want gender is we can use it into the code to display Miss or Mr. on the site. So once I've created my fields, I'm quite happy with that, and I can click save. And as you can see there, you'll get the table DBK members has been created, and green check to let me know everything's okay. Right, so now that I have the table created, I'll come back later and we'll do the more or less similar with the books table. But what I want to do now is start with a little bit of code to see if I can populate the actual database itself with some members. Okay, so for this I'll go back to Dreamweaver and I'm just going to close down index. From here what I need to do is now create a little script to see if I can actually connect to the database first. So before I start populating it, I'll actually see if I can connect to it first. So I'm going to create a new file, so file and new. It will be a blank page, PHP, and click create. From here I can go directly into code view. Okay, and I'm just going to delete out all this code here and put in a couple of PHP tags. Okay, so question mark PHP and come down a few spaces and question mark, close that tag there. Okay, I'm just going to change my settings here. I'm just got a feeling looking at this it might be a bit small in the video, so I'll just edit the preferences here. Fonts, I'll just bring that up to 12. Should be a bit better. Okay, so it should be easier to see now on the when this on the video. Okay, so what I want to do here now is I want to make a connection to the database. So I'm going to make variables out of the out of each one. Again, to connect to a database, I need MySQL or any database. I need the host, the username, and the password in the database itself. So I'll make variables out of these, and then I'll show you what I'm doing. So I'm going to set that to the string. Again, because localhost is on the MySQL is on the same server, it can be localhost. Okay, and terminate the line. So again, I'll create a user. Now in your account, the a default user has already been set to your username. So in my case, it's Damien K. Okay, and terminate the line there. Again, the database or the password. Password. Okay, and I'm going to set this variable to the password I created. In this case, handle. Okay, and terminate that line. And now I want the actual DB or the database itself. So again, a variable DB, and I'm going to set this to the database I created. Again, by default, the system created when I created the account. Again, it's Damien here. So yours will be your username from that. Okay, so there's the variables just laid out there. There's two functions that are required to connect to MySQL. The first one is MySQL _ connect. Okay, and it's a function, so I'm in parentheses, and I'll terminate the line. And the second function I'll need is MySQL select DB. So MySQL _ select _ DB. Again, which is a function, and I'll terminate the line. So again, the MySQL connect function holds 3 parameters. This is to connect to the actual database engine, and what that is host, username, and password. So in the argument here, it will hold three parameters: the host, username, and password. And the second one here will hold 1 parameter, which is the database name. Okay. So again, so what I'm going to pop in here is the host. So it takes 3 parameters. So again, the parameter is $host. Okay, separate each one with a comma. Again, host $user. Okay, separate each one and pass. Okay, again, Dreamer is trying to pop some stuff in here for me. And the database I'm using will be is called DB. So DB $DB. Okay, so there are the parameters required. Now, just to check that I've got a connection, I'll echo out. Echo out build, and this is over there. Close that. Okay, I'll just echo out well done. And I'm going to save file and save and call this connect.php. Save that, see it there. And I'm just going to upload this now to the server. And upload that. And I'm just going to call it now on a browser. So we'll come back here and call connect.php. You see I get the well done. So that means I know the actual connect is now working correctly. Because I'm going to need that for later on. Just go back here and go back to Dreamweaver. So now that I have this, I can just comment out well done about that coming up all the time. And I can close connect.php because I won't need it again. This is holding the information, so anything I do from here on in, I could just require this file. So I'll close that. Save changes, yes. Okay, now what I want to do now is add a member. So I'm going to create a file called addMember.php. So I go File and New, blank page PHP, and click Create. Okay, and I'm going to go File and Save, and I'm going to call this addMember.php. So addMember.php and click Save. To create this table, I'm just going to pop into Design View, so click on Design. Just going to hard turn and click on your Forms tab on the Insert toolbar. The very first icon is Insert a Form, and you can see there it inserts two dotted red lines. Again, this is indicating the form, the opening and closing tag. Okay, the opening dotted red line, bottom dotted red line, opening and closing form tags. So everything to do with your form should be in this table, or in between the tags. To make this a little bit easier, I'm going to create a table. So if I click on Common here and click Insert a Table, I'm going to have about just say about 7 rows, 2 columns. This will keep it nice and clear. I'm going to have 90% of the container that it's in. Border thickness at 0. We can leave these blank for the time being, and we'll click OK. Now, while I have the table selected, I'm just going to center it. So I'll come down to my Properties Inspector and select Center. And now I'll put in the fields. Now, there's no need for me to put in the fields ID, the auto ID, or the members ID, because that's going to be an auto increment. So there's absolutely no need for me to put it into the form. So I can start off with first name, last name, okay, address, okay, phone, let's make this a phone, address, phone, address, phone, gender. Okay, so you can see there are 5 there. There's no need for that now, so I can table and delete the row. Okay, I'm just going to pull the cell wall over a little bit. Okay, and on this side now I'll pop in the fields. So I'll click back on my Forms tab and click Insert a Text field here. I'm I'm going to just say OK to that and do it in the properties inspector. So put in my fields first. Okay, so there's name, address. Back to this now in a second. Phone. I'll do gender now in a second because that's going to be radio buttons. So let's go back to first name. Double click the field. Come down to the properties inspector and name it. And I'll call it first name. I'll call it FM underscore first name. The reason I'm putting FM underscore in it is to avoid confusion when I'm creating variables later on. Okay, so again, FM underscore first name will do there. You'll see later on now it's to avoid confusion. That's what we're doing here. So double click last name there, the one for last name. That'll be FM underscore last name. Okay, address, FM address. Underscore address. And phone, FM underscore phone. Now note when you're filling in the form fields that they were all lowercase, no spaces, and it does not start with an integer. Okay, that's very important. All lowercase, doesn't start with an integer, and no spaces. Okay, let's put in the gender now. So I'll have male. I'll use radio buttons here. Male, and again click on the radio button. Just say OK to that, and then I have female. And click the radio button and just say OK to that. Okay, let's configure our radio buttons. So double click the first radio button, and here we have the grouping name and the checked value. So the grouping name will be FM underscore gender, and the checked value will be male here. And if I double click the other one, again it'll be the same grouping name, which is FM underscore gender, and the checked value will be female. Okay, and the last thing to do now is just put in a submit button. So I'll click the submit, say OK there, and I have a submit button in. Okay, again, if you want to go into the back end and just have a look at the code, there it is there. Okay. Okay, now we need to set the action for this form. Again, every form has an action and a method. Let's just go into the back end here, into code view, and let's look at the first line of the form, which is here. In my case is line 10, and you can see there form ID is form 1, the name is form 1. Again, these are okay, you can just leave them as they are, but the two important ones here is the method, which is post. Again, it can be post or get. There's a subtle difference, but 9 times out of 10 it will be post. And the action, this is what's going to happen when the actual form is clicked. Remember, the submit button on the form has one function and one function only, and that's to invoke the action. Okay. Now the action will be in this form will be to capture all the data that's in the fields. Okay, and there is a PHP built-in variable called a super variable that will actually handle this for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my PHP tags here. Again, question mark PHP. Come over a little bit and then close them off there. Okay. Now come back to PHP, and Dreamweaver has built in what's known as code hints, which will help you out a lot here with this one. Okay, the super variable, all super variables, so the spacebar there, it's $sign and underscore. $sign underscore invokes a super variable. That's a variable that's built in. And what I'm looking for here is the one called server. Okay, and from that there's a drop down menu, and what I'm looking for is PHP self. So I'll come down to the P's, PHP self. Okay, so that actually, I'll just tidy that up now. Okay, so this line, I'll just make it a tad bigger so you can see it there. This line, okay, here, okay, this is what we're looking at here. So PHP, the super variable, will capture the data, and what we have to do is just terminate that line there, and our PHP code is ready to go. Okay, just bring that back to the correct size. Okay, so there's my form. So when I click submit, it invokes the action, and the action for the form is the PHP variable, super variable, which actually captures all of the data that's in the fields itself. Okay, so it's built in. Okay, what we need to do now is create a little bit of code that actually writes data to the database. Okay, and now to do this, I'm just going into code view, and I'm going to come into the body. I'm just going to give you a load of white space here, so I can walk away with. So give it a load of hard choice, so you have lots of white space. Okay. Again, always tidy it up afterwards, but for the time being. Okay, so I'm going to set my PHP tags. PHP. Okay, come down a bit. Close that tag. Okay, the very first thing I need to do is get this page to connect, or the form to connect, to use the database. So I'll use require in this case. Again, require is a function, parentheses, and terminate the line. Okay, so what does it require? Again, what it requires is I put that into the argument, between the parentheses is an argument. So I require connect, right, act.php, which has all the code required to connect to the database. Again, that's the one we done earlier. The next thing I need to do is set variables, okay, for each part of the form. Now remember, when you actually click submit, the super variable PHP creates an area in memory similar to the clipboard on Windows. So it's holding all that data. Now what we want to do is create variables which is referencing each point of data that is being held in memory. Okay, so the first thing I'll do is create a variable for first name. Okay, and I'm going to set that to the super variable post. Okay, so again, $, super variable $, underscore, and again it's going to be post, and you can see there it's open the square bracket. I'll just close it there and terminate the line. Okay, so what do we want the variable first name to hold? What do we want this to hold? Now if you remember, this is where to avoid confusion, I said we'll call this, I'll just use a single quote here, FM underscore first name. Okay, and close that single quote. Now what I was doing here is I just didn't, why I called it FM first name on the form is to distinguish it from this, which is just first name. Okay, again, remember, this is called FM first name. Okay, and the variable I'm just using here is just called first name. So that's now what I want to do is capture each one of the form fields. So I'll just do that now. Okay, so you can see there I've just fast forwarded the video there, so you weren't looking at me just typing away. So you can see their last name is set to FM last name, address is set to FM address, phone, FM phone, and gender, FM gender. Okay, next thing I need to do is to write that to a database. So first of all, the SQL statement that's going to write that, I'm going to make a variable of the SQL statement. Okay, I'll show you what I'm doing now in the next line after this. So I'm going to have a variable called write. Variable called write. Okay, and I'm going to set this to my SQL statement. So I'll open up inverted quotes and I'll close them here at the end. Okay, so the statement will be as follows. Again, the beauty about MySQL statements is they're very like English. Again, normally you would write into the write all SQL statements in caps. Okay. Right, so in this I'm going to insert into. Okay, what am I going to insert into? I'm going to insert her into the members table. So I'll type that in. M-E-N-M-E-R-S. Now notice the case for members because I created members in a lowercase, set lowercase there for that. Okay, so insert into members some values. Again, the values function, so parentheses, and terminate the line. Okay, I can just tidy up that there now. Okay, so with this, sorry, terminate that. Don't terminate my mistake. Okay, parentheses. Okay, with this now, I can just pop in the values I want. Okay, so the values will be each one of these variables. Whenever I'm writing to the database, it's been held in memory. We've sectioned each we've kind of defined what each one is. Now we need to set it in. Now the first field we have is the auto increment. To get that or to fill that field in, we'll just put in null. Okay, lowercase there we go. Okay, that will just automatically activate the auto increment. Okay, and I need 5 fields. So just so I have the everything right, I'm going to put in the inverted comma. So there's one variable separated by a comma, the second variable separated by a comma, third variable, okay, fourth variable, and the fifth variable. Okay, that just makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so what am I going to put in here? In this one goes each one of the variables, so I'll copy that, and in between that quote goes the first name. Okay, it's in the next, copy last name, copy that in. So you can see between each instead of inverted comma there, I'm putting in the variable. Okay. Again, if you copy and paste, it eliminates the actual possibility of typos. Even though it would have been quicker for me just to type this. Okay, no need for a comma at the last one there. Just take that out. Okay, so that's my statement, my SQL the variable statement. And again, I need to terminate that line because I have a write into. Okay, so I'll terminate it here. Okay, so just to recap, this variable called write is now holding this SQL statement. Okay, actually telling everything where to go. Okay, I need a function now to actually put that into the database, and that function is known as mysql underscore query. mysql underscore query. Okay, again, a function, parentheses, terminate the line. Okay, again, what will go into this, so this is going to do the writing to the database, will be this variable here, because it's holding that data. So that variable goes directly into there, and that now should write data to the database. Okay, so let's have a quick look at that and check that it does. So if I go file and save, okay, and come back to FileZilla, and what I'm going to do is refresh that, and click add member and upload. Okay, come back here, sorry, to my browser window, refresh. Now again, it's not coming here. We haven't set links on this yet, so we'll do that soon. Just want to first make sure that it can do it, so I'll type in add member. .php. Okay, again, the bad one, I can take that out of that. So in this case, I'll put in Joe blogs. Okay, he's in Dublin, and his phone number is 1234567. And he's the male, and we'll click submit. Okay, so let's check the database to see if that information is there.